to a new week of exciting instruction. This week we're focusing on interviewing techniques and lighting. We'll do a lot of the lighting stuff in class because it requires us to have lights and play around with it, but we'll hit the interviewing here. I'm going to do kind of a quick overview of interviewing, some tips and tricks, some things I've learned, and some things to think about that you may not have thought about to this point. And then after this, I want you to watch a quick video by Rich Harrington. He gets a little bit into the technical side, but he also talks a lot about interviewing techniques, how to ask questions, how to put your interviewee at ease, simple things like that. So let's just dive in. Here's some things to think about when you are setting up for an interview. Again, interviews happen whether you're doing journalism, public relations, creative film type of things. You still need to know how to frame a proper shot for an interview. We've talked about the rule of thirds, and it definitely comes into play in an interview. For instance, take a look at this shot. We can see that the subject is not anywhere near the rule of thirds. Our eyes aren't drawn to their face and they feel out of place. Now try this one. What we see is a person ready to speak. They're looking slightly off camera. They have plenty of what we call nose room. Something to remember when you're doing interviews is that if you can only see one eye, it's bad. One eye bad. Because one eye means that you've got a profile shot. That means you have sharp lines on their eyes, their ears, their nose, and they should be looking at you interviewing, not the camera. Of course, that depends on what you're doing the interview for. If it's journalism style interview, they definitely need to look off camera and talk to somebody that's talking to them. If they're addressing the audience like I am addressing you, then they can look straight ahead and you can frame them up right in the center. But for the most part, all of your interviews are going to be talking to someone off camera. That's the point of an interview. You're getting the truth from them, some ideas, some answers, so that you can share that with a broader audience. It's a little disconcerting to have your interviewees staring straight at the camera when we know that they're not talking to us directly, like I am to you now. So consider that. Other things to think about. Questions. There are good questions and there are bad questions. Open-ended questions are the good ones. If you've taken media writing, and many of you have, you know the difference between an open-ended and a closed-ended question. A closed-ended question has very short answers, maybe a yes, maybe a no. Do you enjoy what you do? Yes. Closed-ended. You're not going to be able to use that in any sort of a soundbite or any sort of a finished video piece. And so, open-ended. Tell me why you enjoy what you do. All right, so think about those things. Pretty simple. There's tons of examples I could give you of good and bad questions, but think about them and maybe even write them up beforehand so that you know what you'll be asking and you'll know what kind of answers you'll be looking for. Look at those open-ended questions. Okay, other thing to look for. Setting up that interview. Where are you going to put this person that kind of maybe speaks to us about who they are and what they do? If you're doing an interview with somebody that works on Native American flutes or builds them, doing an interview in the garage near their tools and flutes in various stages of build is a great idea. Doing an interview with somebody in an office who is an artist is maybe not the best place for them. So think about what you're talking to them about. What is it that they do? What makes them them? Put them in that location. Put them somewhere. It's okay to stage the location of an interview for a lot of the things that we're doing. There are times in the journalism world when you don't want to stage anything, you don't want to move things around, you just capture what's happening and you tell that to the people. That's not one of these times. Especially in this next piece that you're doing for me, assignment-wise, think about it. Think about where you're having this person talk. What's behind them that contributes to what they're saying? If it has to be them on a couch or them in the house or them outside, that's fine. There are some nondescript places that work just fine. So when you set things up, think about where they are and what's in the background. For instance, take a look at my background. I've got boxes everywhere. I've got a half a door, that side. I've got a half camera, that side. I didn't stage this at all. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting in my chair so low and you wouldn't be looking so far down on me. I would have changed things quite a bit. But if you're staging an interview, take a second to arrange some things. I once shot an interview. I bet it was an interview. It was a intro piece, but I bet I probably spent 45 minutes arranging the guy's office to make it look just right, changing not only the lighting, which we'll talk about, but just putting things on his desk and framing them up and seeing if they were too obvious or subtle. Moving things around on the back shelf that was in his desk to see that we could move some glare so we could get the picture we wanted. You'll find yourself doing that more and more. Just be observant. It's that easy. Okay, so Set it up so it looks nice. Watch out where they're sitting. Don't have something coming straight out of the back of their head if you line them up next to in front of a tree or by a flagpole, or in their office. Don't have like a lamp that you can't see the base of, and all you see is this thing coming out of the back of the head. It looks strange, and you can avoid that if you just think about it. Be observant. Last thing I'll talk about is kind of how to get them at ease. I always ask the first question, same every interview I do. It helps put them at ease. Rich will talk about this a little bit in his video, but you want the people that you're interviewing to feel comfortable, so that they feel like they can talk to you, so they feel like they have something that they can share. So for instance, first question I ask is always, can you give me your name and spell it for me, and tell me your title? So give me your name and title and spell it for me. And I usually preface this by saying, I'm going to give you the hardest question first. Are you ready? And then I spill that on them. Then they're, he's retarded, and this is easy. So, easy enough to do. That way you have a spelling on camera. We talked about that not too long ago. No matter what their name is, Mike Smith, John Smith, whatever it is, get the spelling in case it has any sort of discrepancy to what's normal. You want it on camera so that you can use that information. Other things that you can tell them is you can give them an idea of how much they can move. You can say, you know what, you can use your hands this much. Or I'm shooting from about your mid-chest up, so that you have some room to talk and use your hands. That's pretty easy. Also, you want to let them know how you're going to be using the interview. For instance, if you're using this in a documentary, or your voice will not be heard with the interview, you want to tell them, you know, my voice is going to get cut out of this, so if you would do me a favor and say the question in the answer, or repeat or respond with my question in mind, that would really help me. For instance, I may ask you why you love to do what you do. And in your response, I'd like you to answer with, well, the reason why I love to do X is because blah, blah, blah. Right? So you can prep them and tell them that this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is how I want you to respond. That way they understand why they have to say the question. And you just remind them a couple of times throughout, oh, great, that was a wonderful answer. On this next one, could you remember to state the question again as you expound? Thanks. So, that's pretty much it. I don't know that I have much more to add to that. I just want to kind of start in a little bit on the interviewing. You get better as you do it over time, just like with anything. And rock on, one and all.